What's going on everyone, Mike here, and in this video we're having side by side the Google Nexus 7 and the Asus MeMO Pad HD7, two of the most interesting cheap Android tablets available these days. The two are much alike in many ways, and that was expected since they are both manufactured by Asus. However, there are some things setting apart the MeMO Pad from the Nexus, so go ahead and watch the video to find out all about them. We'll start with the similarities. Both offer basically the same 7-inch screens with IPS panels and 1280 by 800 pixel resolution. As a result, there's almost no difference between colors, contrast or viewing angles on these two. But the Nexus tends to display deeper blacks, probably because the glass on top of the screen is darker on it. The MeMO Pad compensates with richer whites, but at the same time lacks an ambient light sensor, so you'll always have to adjust the screen's brightness manually. The MeMO Pad and the Nexus are also evenly sized, and because of that, they feel pretty much the same when grabbed and used. The HD7 is a bit lighter and that could make it more comfortable to play with, but the margins are somewhat sharp and annoying. At the same time, the Nexus 7 is grippier, thanks to its textured and soft rubber back. The MeMO Pad comes with a glossy rear panel, prone to scratches and smudges. It's white on our version, but you can also get it in a couple of lively colors if you want to. That aside, the two feature pretty much the same ports and buttons, although they are more inconveniently placed on the MeMO Pad. For instance, the microSD port is at the top of the tablet, and that makes the device awkward to use when charging it. Oh, and the Asus Slate does offer a microSD card slot, something missing on the Nexus. Alright, with those on the table, let's see what sets these two apart. Firstly, there's the hardware. Both Slates bundle quad-core processor, but from different manufacturers. There's also 1GB of RAM on them, and 8 or 16GB of storage on the MeMO Pad, and 16 or 32GB on Google's device. But that's not expandable, don't forget that. Anyway, both in benchmarks, if that's something you care about, and in everyday use, the two tabs perform more or less the same. There's still occasional jerkiness and stuttering, but the overall experience is fairly good, considering of course the price range. You can use this for browsing, listening to music, watching movies or playing games. By default, the MeMO Pad supports more types of video content, but at the same time it struggles with more complex games like GTA Vice City. The same title runs smoother on the Nexus 7, but not completely stutter-free either. Anyway, here's how the two will deal with various tasks and apps. All in all, these slates can handle most everyday activities just fine. However, it's worth mentioning that the two offer somewhat different user interfaces. The Nexus 7 brings the whole vanilla Android experience, and that means you're only getting the basics and can build your own device from there by installing apps and widgets of your liking. The MeMO Pad runs Android 4.2.1, which is almost the latest version of the OS, so it offers all the features of the Nexus with some slight extras and tweaks. Asus skinned their tablet with what they call the WaveShare UI. Luckily, that only slightly modifies the standard Android interface with a customized notification panel, a set of smart apps that can run on top of your open windows, and a bunch of other minor tweaks. When it comes to bundled apps though, there are quite a few of them on the MeMO Pad, some useful like Asus Artist or the Audio Wizard, but most not that much. It's also worth mentioning another fine detail. You might have noticed by now that both tablets can integrate the main Android navigation buttons within the interface. They rotate with the screen, and by the way, you can use the tablets in portrait and landscape mode, as the home screens will rotate accordingly. The menu integrates with most apps and fades away when not used, but on the Asus this does not always happen. As a result, you get it displayed on some games or when running a slideshow of pictures, something I found quite annoying. Alright, that aside, there is another aspect we should talk about: cameras. There's only one front-facing shooter on the Nexus 7 for video calls, and Google doesn't even bundle a camera app on their device. Asus however mounted a 5-megapixel camera on their tablet and a fully backed up camera app with shooting modes, filters and so on. The results aren't great, especially in dim light, but they are not that bad either. Judge them for yourselves. Okay, before we get to draw the line on this comparison, there are a few extra aspects worth mentioning. For instance, the Nexus 7 offers NFC and cellular connectivity on some versions, while the MeMO Pad HD7 does not. The two feature rear-mounted speakers and the overall sound quality is average on both, but on the Asus slate you can get the Audio Wizard app that helps you boost the volume and to some extent even enhances the audio quality. As for the battery life, the MeMO Pad tends to outlast the Nexus 7 in most cases, but only by a minor margin, and that despite the fact that it packs a slightly smaller battery. On top of that, there's a neat battery saving app bundled on the Asus tablet, highly customizable and useful when trying to squeeze the most out of your battery. In the end though, the two slates are very close. The Asus MeMO Pad HD7 does have a couple of interesting extras like the microSD card support and main camera. The Nexus 7 compensates with the vanilla Android experience, faster updates, somewhat better performances, and a few extra connectivity options. However, there is one important aspect that's crucial in this fight: the price difference. The MeMO Pad HD7 starts at $149, while the Nexus 7 starts at $199 in the US. In other parts of the world, the gap is even larger, especially in those countries where Google aren't selling their hardware directly. Of course, it's worth mentioning that the Nexus 7 is a 1-year-old device, while the MeMO Pad is brand new. The Nexus 7.2 is just around the corner with plenty of new features, so if you can spend more than $200 on your next 7-inch tablet, have a look at that one as well. But if you're on a very tight budget and want a decent tablet for as little money as possible, the MeMO Pad HD7 is the tablet to consider here. As I also mentioned in my review, there is no better device out there in this price range, at least none offered by a premium brand. With that in mind, it's time to wrap this up. Thank you for watching and let me know in the comments below which one do you think is the better pick between the two. And of course, stay tuned for my next updates, subscribe to the channel and get crazy with those share and thumbs up buttons if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon.